Is there life after death? Can you prove it? Our next guest says he can. Dinesh D'Souza joins us. He's the author of the brand new book, Life After Death, The Evidence. Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure.
And I love the word, the evidence, which is another word for proof. Is there life after death?
I think there is, and I've always believed it on the basis of faith. But in this book, I set that aside and I say, let's look at empirical evidence, let's look at historical, philosophical, scientific evidence. And that's the good news, that actually when you look at modern science, you look at modern philosophy, there is surprising proof that there is life after death.
Life what? How do you prove something in the future?
Well, Shakespeare called death the undiscovered country, and it's true. You can't go to the other side of the curtain. I don't claim to have interviewed dead people or any of that. Now, there are near-death experiences, and that is thousands of people who have been very close to death. They have been declared clinically dead, or in some cases, no brain function. And they report all over the world a surprisingly uniform experience. They say, I feel myself pulled through a tunnel. I see a bright light. I feel my whole life go in front of me, a kind of what's called a life review. I sometimes encounter deceased relatives. I feel in the presence of a celestial being. And then I come across an impassable barrier. I want to go through it, but I can't, and then I'm back on the operating table. So these near-death experiences, which are now the subject of quite detailed study, the atheists are very worried about them and are trying to say, no, it's kind of like if you take hallucinogenic drugs, or maybe the brain in the process of dying generates this kind of special effects. But those theories have their own problems.
How do you know, though, that it isn't that? I mean, I'm zeroing in on the whole issue of proof. That I realize that people with these near-death experiences, they have a lot of similarity in experience. But where's your level of certainty? I mean, how do you arrive at the certainty?
Well, remember, this is only one part of the argument. I think the way you look at life after death is you're a little bit like a detective and you've come on a crime scene. Now, there's no eyewitness because we can't talk to dead people. But there are a lot of clues and there's a lot of evidence. Each single piece by itself won't make the case, but when you put it together. So, for example, take the atheist idea that this is just the dying brain. Now, those of us who have had relatives or been with people who have had Alzheimer's, the body and the brain are breaking down, you know what that's like. You have faded recollections, you have a dimness of perception, you have disorientation, and then you look at the near-death experience. It's the opposite. It's extreme clarity and a sense of vividness. And besides, if these are people whose brains are dying, how come they're walking around? The people with near-death experiences they have jobs, they have families, so their brain would have had to die and essentially come back to life, which is a little hard to believe.
All right, so you believe this from faith before you started writing the book. You then started doing research, and then you had this. You came up with you look at it from a scientific point of view. Is that right?
Well, the thing is, we believe a lot of things on faith, but we're living in a secular culture, and so in some senses, faith doesn't cut it when you're talking to somebody who doesn't share your faith. I think it's important to be able to look and see what modern evidence has to show, and so I look at physics, I look at biology. Most importantly, the science of the brain, because there's been tremendous advances in neuroscience. And in a sense, what we're looking at here is the mind and the brain the same thing? Because, see, if they are, then the brain dies. We don't deny that. So then the mind goes with it. But if the mind is not the same thing as the brain, then it opens up the possibility that the brain might die, but the mind might live on.
Is mind synonymous with soul?
No, because soul is a tricky term. Usually in religious traditions, the soul is the moral faculty, the ability to tell right from wrong. That's the soul. The mind is the much wider repertoire of thoughts and feelings, emotions, ideas, the whole immaterial side of us. Now, 2,500 years ago, Socrates, of all people, made an argument for life after death, which I think is still relevant. He said as human beings, we have a physical side, our legs, our arms, our lungs, and we have a mental side, our thoughts, our feelings, our ideas. The body dies, but the immaterial part of us can live on.
All right, well, great new book, Life After Death, Evidence is the word. Thank you. Nice to see you.
It's been a